Are you in them?
Yes.
All right, then let me.
Trish, are you?
She's on the phone with me right now.
Oh, Trish, you're not in? Tell her just to go to the website.
All right. She's on it. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
All right. She's on her way. We are recording, just so you know. It's set up to record automatically. So if you don't want it to, the pre-meeting to be recorded, make sure you fix that now before whatever. And if you don't mind, then carry on. Good evening, everyone.
Hello,
Probably
Deborah.
Hi, Larry.
Probably shouldn't be recording this part because it's available to the public. And if people want to watch the recording of the meeting, then they have to go through all of this before they get to the beginning of the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
You can pause the recording if you don't want to record now. You don't have to stop it, just pause it and start it when we start our meeting.
And we're probably going to have to wait for either Trish or Deborah to do that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I stepped away. What was it you wanted me to do?
End the recording until the meeting starts.
Or pause it. Are you chair or co-chair?
Well, I'm the host right now. I don't see the record button here. Let me look.
Should be bottom right next to screen share.
Pause.
Recording right now.
There you
Okay.
go.
All right, it is 7 o'clock. We are going to start the August LOCAC meeting. We've got a full agenda tonight. I'm Trish Bartel, I'm the chair. And let's start with the roll call. Tom, could you do the roll call tonight?
I could. I don't have everyone's.
You know what? Then I'll go ahead and do it tonight, and then I'll have you do it next month. How's that?
Thank you very much.
All right, so District 1, Patrick McGivney,
Here,
Andrea Luker.
Present.
District 2, Kristen Horowitz,
Present.
Tom Cross.
Here.
District 3, Larry Bender,
Present.
Larry Rayo.
here.
District 4, Deborah Howe,
Present.
John Lent. That's missing, okay. At large, Jim Stanfield and Trish Bartel. We're just missing John Lent so far. And I think he did send me an email saying he was out of town. So chairperson announcements, I do have some corrections to the agenda, which are all the responsibility of mine. So under 5C, County Staff Report, Blaine Reilly, he is not here tonight. He was here last month and I've neglected to take him off the agenda. And then under committee reports, the treasurer report, the treasurer is Jim Stanfield, not Deborah Howe. So those are the changes to tonight's agenda. Do we have any council member announcements tonight? If so, raise your hand. None. Okay. Then let's go to county and local reports. Do we have a sheriff tonight? And I don't have a name, so if you could just raise your hand. Any sheriffs here tonight?
Let's see, somebody's just coming in from the waiting room.
Okay. Do we have a sheriff? All right, let's see if we have Commander Klingenberg tonight. There he is.
You sure do.
Yay, we missed you last month.
I am sorry about that. Thank you for, I hope, did I miss it or did I send my lieutenant? What
Oh, you
happened?
sent your lieutenant and he did a very great job.
Okay,
but-
good. Yeah, he's
but we
way
just
better.
missed you.
He's way better. Well, that's nice of you. Thank you. He's way better at this than me. Okay, for Los Osos, for the month of July, we had a total of 2 DUI arrests. We had 1 DUI collision, and then we had 5 collisions that did not involve DUI drivers. Yeah, those were the 2 DUI arrests. We had a DUI collision. That was a solo vehicle collision, non-injury, where the vehicle struck a landscaping rock in the vicinity of Los Osos Valley Road and Oak Ridge Drive. No injuries, like I said, solo vehicle. And then the 5 collisions. First one was on Los Osos Valley Road, the vicinity of Clark Valley Road. That was a 2 vehicle collision, unsafe turning movement, complaint of pain. Yeah, complaint of pain, injuries in that collision. So minor in nature. Like I said, Los Osos Valley Road, west of Clark Valley Road. Second collision, also on Los Osos Valley Road, east of Fairchild Way, 2 vehicle collision. Looks like that was a right of way out of private driveway, something like that. No injuries in that collision, minor damage to the vehicles. Again, on Los Osos Valley Road, this one was west of Foothill Road. We had a solo vehicle strike an animal of some type. It just says animal in the box. I'm not sure if that was a deer or, oh, it does say a deer. I apologize. I read it wrong the first time. No, I'm sorry, complaint of pain in that collision as well to the driver, probably, seeing the animal come across the roadway there and holding on, bracing for impact. We had a collision on 15th and Paso Robles, 2 vehicle collision where a vehicle backed into a parked vehicle, minor damage, no injuries in that one. We did have a collision on South Bay, north of Turi. That was a vehicle versus a bicyclist. The bicyclist suffered some pretty significant injuries in that collision back on the 28th of the month. And like I said, South Bay and North Turi Road. Then our final collision, Willow Road, somewhere in the vicinity of Los Osos Valley Road. We had a 2 vehicle collision, minor injury in that collision, and moderate damage to both vehicles. Looks like a head-on. It was so late in the month, for whatever reason, I don't have a collision factor on that collision. But it was a head-on, so I'm not sure what happened there, but I know DUI was not involved and it was a minor injury collision. As a side note, we had some citizens' complaints of a couple of vehicles. Spoke with Blake Fixler about a truck and a trailer that were parked in a turnout there on Turi in the vicinity of South Bay. And we went out there a couple of days, tried to give notice to the 2 vehicles that were out there. One of them was able to be moved. The second one, we did end up towing that vehicle and the trailer with a significant amount of, belongings, but there really wasn't much to those belongings, but there was a significant amount that we had to pack up into that truck and trailer. Anyway, hopefully for now that turnout has been cleared out. Other than that, and that actually was the month of August. That wasn't July, so I jumped ahead a month. I apologize for that. But that's an overall report for Los Osos, and I am welcome to answer any questions you might have.
You, great report. Any questions from the council?
I do have a question about the cyclist injury on South Bay Boulevard and Torrey
Sure.
Road. Do you have any details about what actually happened there? Was the cyclist trying to turn on Torrey and
But you know Bodie and Lila.
Small Odie? Tiny
Let
baby?
me see how specific I can get here real quick.
if you can, I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah. So it wasn't in the intersection. It was 0.7 of a mile north of Torrey Road on South Bay. The bicyclist, what it looks like is that the bicyclist pulled out in front of the car.
Okay,
And the
good idea.
left front of the vehicle struck the rear tire of the bicyclist. So it looks like the bicyclist violated the right of way of the vehicle that was traveling on South Bay Boulevard there.
Okay.
yeah. Those bike lanes can get very narrow in places right
I
there.
was just gonna say, there's not
Yeah.
much bike lane there, so,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Sure.
Any
Okay,
other,
I do have a question about the turnouts because I mountain bike out there and see it all the
Yeah.
time. I'm just curious, like, what is the legality of that, of people camping there? Because I kind of figured it was just fine because it's been there for a while.
It's you can well, there's not a specific camping ordinance there,
Okay.
but there is a 72-hour parking rule
Okay.
that does apply.
Thank you.
And that truck had been there for a significant amount.
Yeah,
of
I
time.
figured it was just like, I guess it's a spot that they can be. So,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
nope.
okay.
Trish, we have a hand up, Dave and Bev.
okay, I just want to make sure there's no other council members who would like to speak. Nope, or ask questions.
Oh,
Okay,
wait, I want to make a point that John Lint did come in.
yes, he did.
I'm sorry,
He is present.
technical problems. Thank you.
No worries. All right, Dave and Bev, we are asking you to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, it's Dave Bolus. I just wanted to make a comment on the collision east of Fairchild on Los Osos Valley Road. That location is one that has been talked about for years in traffic and circulation. And according to the rules that the county follows, that section is not a business district because they just count one business per building. And despite the fact that there is probably a dozen businesses there, it's not got enough businesses qualifying to make it a 25 mile an hour speed limit business district. So I just wanted to mention that. It's like a broken record, but that's a location that people are going too fast. Thank
Now
you.
that is a 30. You're right. That is a 35 mile an hour speed limit zone there. Yeah.
What street was
Okay.
that one more time?
Fairchild.
Fairchilds, thank you.
Yeah, it was actually on Los Osos Valley Road, east of Fairchild Way.
Okay. Any other questions for the commander? Okay, Commander Klingenberg, thank you so much. I really appreciate your report
Well,
tonight.
I thank you all for your service, and I thank you for your time tonight, for putting up with me. Have a great night.
Oh, you're great.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night. All right, county staff report, Corey Hahn.
Hey everyone, Corey Hahn here, County Planning. The ADU ordinance got continued at the board meeting on August 9th. So that's continued to a date uncertain. There's no specific date as of right now. It gives us time to work with closest commission staff to get to an agreement on how the ordinance should be. And I also want to apologize for not sending over the reports on the plans and permits. We're transitioning our permitting system right now. I'm just unable to generate the reports as of right now. We're working out the kinks in the system. So I should have a report for everyone next month.
Okay. Any questions from council to Corey?
Yeah. Oh,
Patrick.
Thank you. Corey, last month I'd asked you about the provisions that were in the LCP that prohibited a water development without a sustainable water supply proven, and you didn't know those ordinance, so I sent them to you. Did you get a chance to review those?
I did. I ran it by county council. I can send you, I'll send you the a brief response tonight. I actually have that. I just haven't had a chance to send it over yet. I can send it over to you after this meeting.
Okay, can you give us just any information? I think the public would like to know about it also.
Sure. So basically, Public Works Policy number 1 requires that a county to make a finding of sufficient service capacity as implemented by some of the sections that you sent me. One of the sections gives priority to infill developments within the urban service line over development proposed between the urban services line and urban reserve line. So basically, it talks about how to prioritize developments, and when a proposed development is located within the urban services line and does not require water service extension and does not involve subdivision of land, the sufficiency of water service capacity is generally satisfied by the applicant obtaining a will serve letter. So essentially, the will serve letter that would be supplied by the water service provider is the proof of sufficient water capacity.
Okay. The Coastal Commission doesn't recognize will serve letters as any proof of water sustainability.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the LCP, the local coastal program, it's the county's local coastal program. The Coastal Commission's responsibility is to review changes to it and certify it, but how the county implements it is our responsibility.
Okay.
And the last one, the other one? There were 2 provisions.
Let's see. So they kind of work, they kind of go hand in hand. It's a little hard to go over each one specifically without because the code section, the code sections are a little hard to describe. But essentially the first policy has more to do with Public Works Policy number 1 has to do with giving priority to specific types of development versus the second one, the coastal zone land use ordinance section that you sent over has to do with availability of water supply. They go hand in hand in the sense of certain development is going to be prioritized over others, depending on whether or not it's within the urban services line or it's outside urban services line. And then that's the second section you talked about that's in the ordinance. That's has to do with the verification of water capacity, and that's well, it's indicating with providing that will serve letter is if it's one under the specific situation where they're within the urban services line, does not require water service extension, and does not involve a subdivision. The will serve letter from the water service provider is the evidence showing that there's sufficiency in water capacity.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
problem.
next would be Deborah.
Hi, Corey, just briefly remind me on the ADUs. I heard you say that it's been postponed for a bit. And is it the county approved? No, my understanding is that there are to be no ADUs in Los Osos, and I think the county approved that. Are we waiting for the Coastal Commission, or do I have that backwards?
It's a little tricky in the sense of, so as of right now, during interim period, ADUs are not allowed, according to the Coastal Commission, they're not recognizing ADUs at all in the entire coastal zone. However, as you know, the county adopted an ordinance for ADUs, and we sent that over to the Coastal Commission. Coastal Commission held a hearing, and they provided suggested modifications to the ordinance. So basically saying that if we modify in accordance with how they suggested, they would certify the ordinance. And one of those suggested modifications is to not allow ADUs at all in Los Osos. So in the interim, ADUs are not allowed in the entire coastal zone. And what the Coastal Commission is suggesting is to allow ADUs in the coastal zone, but specifically not allow them in Los Osos and Cambria moving forward until we can work out things with the LOCP of the community plan, and then we can revisit Los Osos at a later date.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Larry.
Hi, Corey. In reference to the Los Osos water offset study, on your webpage, it's saying that the project schedule has been delayed due to difficulties obtaining historic consumption data. Can you expand on that at all, or let us know? We were expecting a report by October, and it says that we're not going to get a report until 3 months after they get this historical data. So I'm kind of wondering when, if you know anything about that.
Yeah, there's some difficulty getting all the information we need. We want to make sure it's as comprehensive as possible. So I don't know the details of the project, of the study. That is handled by one of my colleagues that's responsible for the water programs. I can ask her for an update, and then I can provide an update in the next meeting if that's okay.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good. I can do that for next meeting.
Thank you, Corey. Patrick, another question?
Yes, thank you. Corey, regarding those provisions again that are in the LCP, I understand that you're saying that the county is interpreting them to mean that if you have a letter from the purveyors, that would signify that there's sufficient water. Yet if those projects are appealed to the Coastal Commission, the Coastal Commission is going to deny them. So it seems like the county is giving false hope to projects that are water demanding, that are bypassing the LCP requirements. So I'm a little concerned just for applicants that are having to spend money replacing washing machines or whatever they're doing for their water offsets, and then they get to the Coastal Commission, and the Coastal Commission says, we don't recognize those, and your project will be denied on that basis. So you have any comment about what the county is thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, we're very transparent with applicants. We've been asking applicants to not only talk to us, but also do the due diligence and speak to the Coastal Commission staff to get their pulse on the project, on the specific project on a case-by-case basis, so that applicants are going into it with all the information they need to determine whether or not it's worth pursuing on their end. And with we're still working with the Coastal Commission staff to determine how we're going to move forward with the Los Osos community plan. So hopefully that will shed some light as to with more certainty on these applications going forward as we progress in those conversations.
All right, thank you. Keep us in touch with how things are going, if you would, please. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Corey from the council? All right, any questions for Corey from the public? All right, thank you so much, Corey.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And I know Blake Fixler is here tonight for Supervisor Bruce Gibson. So if we could, there you are.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, I'm happy to share the report tonight. Our week got somewhat upended because there's been a huge slew last minute meetings regarding a little place called Diablo Canyon Power Plant that is suddenly at the forefront at the tail end of August. So in the meantime, like I said, I'm happy to be with you all. The August 9th board meeting, there was an item that changed the low income user fee offset program for the Los Osos wastewater sewer plant. So whereas previously qualified low income participants would have been able to receive up to 20% off their sewer service charge, and I want to note that's their service charge, not the assessment. We were in coordination with Public Works. The board increased that offset to up to 50% off the sewer service charge. So that is something that folks would have to qualify for, and I'm happy to take any folks who are interested outside of this meeting to get them additional information or get them in touch with Public Works. But I think that's great to help kind of offset some of the increasing costs of living. Also on the 9th, and something of interest to Los Osos and all of the county, the board unanimously voted to adopt a 5-year plan to address homelessness with the end goal of reducing the number of homeless persons in our county by 50%. To that end, they established a homeless division within the Department of Social Services, a working group composed of our county CAO and also the city managers of the 7 cities. They asked for an expansion of safe parking sites as well as non-vehicle sites such as tiny homes and pallet homes, and also created, not yet populated, but a citizens advisory group to hold everyone accountable for that. In addition to that, the supervisors also directed staff to bring back an analysis on behavioral health. That includes mental health and addiction issues. So behavioral health was asked to craft and bring back a strategic plan to the board to show where we currently are in relation to behavioral health gaps are, and then how the board can allocate resources or craft policy to fill those gaps moving forward. So that's my prepared report, but I'm of course happy to answer any questions or expand on anything that I can.
Any questions from the council?
Is there anywhere we can find the information about the offset that I can like link to?
Yes, I have the Public Works page that describes that program. I will message that to you in the chat if that would be helpful.
Perfect. That's what I was trying to do. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Blake, I've got a quick question. Do we have
Sure.
any idea when the Title 19 report will be done?
I would probably have to defer back to Corey on that one, but I'm afraid I don't know.
Okay. All right. We have 3 hands up. Andrea.
Thanks. Hi, Blake. One question, one statement. What's the process for filling the Citizens Advisory Committee for the 5-year plan for homelessness? And then I'm not sure if Supervisor Gibson is aware, but we are now collecting homeless and camping at the street end, First Street end behind Merrymaker and the Back Bay Inn. So in addition to the increase in Palisades, which I know the board heard about at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, we're seeing a conglomeration of folks there on First Street. Just so you know.
Thank you. I did not know about that. I've of course heard about Palisades and was aware of that. As many folks know, you do have a no overnight camping or parking ordinance within Los Osos, but with the Martin v. Boise case, the sheriff is unable and the CHP is unable to enforce that without a reasonable alternative. And that had been our safe parking site. We actually met with admin and the Department of Social Services on Monday, and we learned that there were still approximately 10 spaces open. So our direction to them was let's fill those 10 spaces. In addition to that, just while we wouldn't be able to necessarily enforce that, what we obviously and the sheriff would be more than happy to enforce is if folks see a different crime being committed, please do call the sheriff's department. They can enforce that. So the Martin v. Boise would not allow the enforcement of the of just sleeping in a vehicle. But if there's something else that you see or suspect, please do call the sheriff's department. So I do want to make that comment.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Patrick, you are next up.
Oh, real quick, I forgot to answer the
sorry.
question about the Citizens Advisory Council for the 5-year plan. I'd have to look into that. And I can, it looks like Kristen already found the offset program and put that in the chat. I don't know the details yet of filling out that Citizens Advisory Committee, but once I do, I'm sure we would be happy to report out to the advisory councils on how to get that set up.
Thank you.
All right, Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you, Blake. I am hoping you might be able to shed some insight on this question. If not, if you could have Supervisor Gibson when he returns next month. In the Telegram Tribune a couple days ago, there was an article that's the headline was 2 SLO County water projects get more than 23 million total from the Biden administration. And they outlined that the Morro Bay Water Reclamation Facility got 9.3 million, and the Pismo Beach was allocated 14.1 million.
Yeah.
Also, Congressman Carbajal was able to secure funds for Central Coast infrastructure projects. Cambria Seawater Desal Plant got 200,000. City of Guadalupe, Leroy Park, which we don't even have a park in Baywood, but they got $1,700,000. And Goleta Valley Community Center, they got 6 million. So my question is, why didn't Los Osos in our water district, why didn't our water basin get any money?
That I don't know, and that would, you know, a lot of those are programs that are above the county as far as the decision as to where to allocate. And I don't know what applications were made on behalf of Los Osos, so I would have to get a look into that and be able to report back.
That would be great. Yeah, I mean, did we get any applications in even?
I'll make note of that question and get you that answer.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Are there any other council members who would like to ask Blake a question? Okay, then let's go to Lindy. And I'm asking you to unmute.
Thank you, I did. Hi, Blake. I wanted to, I think one of the concerns that has never gone away is the fact that the county cannot seem to come up with federal, well, not federal, but county properties that could be used to expand the safe parking programs and to get our homeless into some kind of services that can actually work. When is it going to happen? I just am amazed that the problems are solved with many, many, many millions of dollars, but not one piece, not 1 inch of land has been added to what is really needed in order to get people off of our streets into better settings for all of us.
Certainly, Lindy, and I share that frustration and know that the supervisor also shares that frustration. And we've been having more and more frequent, and not to put any specific person under the bus, so I won't name names, but he has basically been demanding that we make good on a vote that I believe we're coming up on maybe 2 years ago now to have 3 safe parking sites. And why can't we make this happen? And again, not to undersell any of the hard work that's been done this far, but we are in complete agreement that we need to have additional sites so we can have not just the expansion of the Oklahoma site, which we learned a lot from, but that seems to be one of the easier things to do as opposed to building a shelter would be to set something up like a safe parking site. And we would need those geographically throughout the county, so it's spreading it equitably throughout the geographic need. I wish I had a more concrete answer as to why that hasn't happened, but no, we're on the same page that need is there.
I just want to remind everybody too that winter's coming again, so it just tends to get really miserable when people have to kind of live in the bushes and the streams. And again, we're not going to get people off of Palisades or First Street or any place else where they're inhabiting communities until the county does this, and it shouldn't be rocket science. So I'll just leave it at that. You've heard me before. Thank you.
No, thank you, Lindy, and thank you for your continued advocacy on that matter too.
All right, thank you. Austin Lee, you have been asked to unmute. Okay, more time.
Hi, everybody. My name's Austin Lee. I am a 8-year, I spent 8 years working for the Behavioral Health Department of San Luis Obispo County. And I just had a question for Blake, and then I have kind of a follow-up statement. I can start with my statement. I understand that this issue firsthand. I've worked one with the CAT team for about a year, and then I was in substance abuse treatment and prevention for the rest of that time. The national averages for being able to resolve, whether it be homelessness, substance abuse, you're at about 10%, maybe 12% if you have really effective programs that prevent relapse and those kinds of things. So it really is a difficult, problem, and I understand that the county is doing its best. So I guess my question for you, Blake, is it's pretty simple. Do you know the actual total amount of money that the 5-year plan is made up of?
Not off the top of my head, but I could probably get into that board item real quick and get that. It would likely fluctuate. We can't bind future boards. They, of course, could put more money into it. But so the short answer is no, I don't know the total dollar amount of the 5-year plan.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Austin, give me a moment. If I can find that number, I will send it to you in the chat.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thanks.
You bet.
Okay, any other questions for Blake?
Can I raise my hand?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I find this homeless issue and the water issue could interface in a dramatic way if we promoted the idea of tiny homes in the community at a particular spot, and then a will serve letter for the tiny homes to get the homeless off of our streets would be turned down because of the Coastal Commission's water policy. So I'm wondering if anybody else has seen the ironic situation where we try to solve problems in Los Osos and for good intentions run, contrary to each other.
Mhm.
That's all I can say.
Thank you. All right, Blake, I think there's no further questions for you at this time, but if you want to stick around, I'm sure you'll have a fun evening here tonight. All right. CSD report. Not quite sure who from CSD is here tonight, so if you could raise your hand for me.
Ron Menz.
Yay.
Hey, how's everyone doing tonight?
Good.
The directors were tied up this evening. Here, let me get my hand down. And so I said I'd come in and give you a brief update on what we've been up to at the CSD. On the waterfront, really good news. We've been working on the 8th Street Upper Aquifer well for quite a few years. It's finally complete. Everything's and it's operational. We're waiting for the permit from DDW. Water quality analysis shows that the water quality is actually very good for an upper aquifer well, and that the nitrate level is at 2.1 and the MCL is at 10. So it's quite low in nitrates. So we're excited to get that one online. The benefit of that well is we're going to decrease the lower aquifer well that's located at the same place, but in the lower aquifer. And we think this will have a positive impact on the seawater intrusion that we're having in our monitoring well out on Pasadena Street. So we're excited about that one. The other one is our program C well. It's over in Bay Oaks and South Bay Boulevard. If you've been by there, you've probably seen the big rig and the drilling rig over there with the big American flag on top of it. Test hole's been completed. The results are good. We're looking at getting all the piping ordered and the packing material. That'll take about 2 weeks, and then we'll finish up by the end of September. That's just phase one of that project. We have the pipeline portion under design right now. That should be finished by the end of December, hopefully out to bid in February of 2023. So that project's moving along. So we're, again, very excited about that. Kind of changing gears. We've been working on an emergency services strategic plan, and we're going to be releasing an RFP to do a building condition assessment of the fire station. As everyone knows, that station is quite old. Part of it was started in the 1960s and it was added on to in the 1970s. So it's time to take a serious look at that building so we can plan for the future on what we need. And we'll be following up with that with a study called a standard of cover, which will then identify our existing current service levels and the adequacy of those and then project out into the future so we can plan for those as well. So we're excited about really moving on our emergency services programs. And then from our Parks and Rec, we're still continuing our dog park efforts. We're looking at ways to fund our design of the park. But now on our radar is the Save Cuesta Inlet Initiative. I know Andrea is on that committee that's working on that. So that's now on the CSD's radar, and we're going to see how we might fit into that project at some future time. I'm not sure if many of you know that the CSD regained its solid waste authority back in April, which was a great, bringing back local control of that. But the flip side, there's a lot of new regulation coming down that we're having to comply with. I had my first meeting with Cal Recycles. That's the agency up in Sacramento that sees over solid waste. And we're looking good. There's like 3 areas of mandatory programs that we have to implement, with the most recent being on organic recycling. So we're looking good, but we're going to have to push out a lot of public information. So look for that in the coming months so we can get in compliance on that. Elections, excuse me, Chuck last month said, that the period for filing, if you wanted to be on the board of directors, was coming. Well, that has ended. The 3 incumbents did file and no others are running against them. So you'll continue to see Christine Womack, Chuck Sesania, and Matthew Fourcroy in the next 4 years. And then finally, I always like to remind people about the drought conditions that we're experiencing and that it's so important that we continue to use water wisely, limit your outdoor irrigation, be very careful with outdoor irrigation, and check for leaks. We see a lot of high water bills come into the district because people have leaks that they were unaware of. So pay attention. And if you need assistance in our service area, give our office a call. And that's what I got for you tonight.
Thank you, Ron. Any questions for Ron from the council? Larry.
Hi, Ron. On that Oak Ridge, Bay Oaks well that's going in, how deep is that one?
They drilled down to 680 feet, but the actual bottom's about 700. So we'll be screening in zones D and E.
D and E, okay.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Any other council members who have a question? Larry, do you have another? No. Okay, it came down. Okay, public members. Lindy?
Am I unmuted?
You are.
Oh my gosh, I didn't remute. I wanted a couple questions, Ron. The upper 8th Street well, will that water be blended or is that going to go directly into drinking supply? And then I have one other question.
Do you want me to answer that one first? It can do either. It's set up to blend, but the water qualities of such we can go directly if we want.
Okay, that's good news. The other question I had was this proposed study to look at importing water via a pipeline. Why would we be importing water if we had a sustainable supply?
Well, as you know, we're kind of on that cusp. And you go to the BMC meeting, so you've heard about the monitoring ports, and that our ability to balance the basin has been difficult. And of course, the extended droughts, if you look at the period from 2012 to 2016, and then the last 3 years, we've been experiencing tremendous drought. The basin's holding its own, but we have seen, in the annual reports that seawater intrusion kind of has been going in. The last year kind of went out, but we're not truly in balance. And so the concept is that if we could bring in just a little bit of water, like a couple of 100 acre feet, which is also what we want for our buffer, that 80% of sustainable yield, it would help us balance our basin so we're truly sustainable. I believe once we get into balance and we can supplement on a limited basis, it's very important. This water isn't meant, one, to create new development. It's there to be able to pump water when water's available in the state water system, and hopefully in the future there's regional desal opportunities coming, which we can probably talk to next month. The county's working on releasing information on that. So it's really for us to have an outside source, because my concern personally as a water manager is 30 years from now. We don't know what's going to happen. And our basin may or may not be sustainable in that long term. And it's up to us right now to make important decisions, not only for current residents, but future residents, that we do have a sustainable water supply.
Another question was, the article, I think in the Estero News, talked about the fact that we wouldn't be able to get water when there was a low supply available through the state water. And currently, I think it's only 5%. So it's not a whole lot of water coming in. So the purpose of building a pipeline, and if that allows for new development, because then, we look like we have the buffer, is that something that the rest of us all get to pay for? Because I think this is the balance that we need to figure out, whether we really have.
Well, again, you're kind of confusing. This isn't for new development. And until the basin metrics, the basin plan and the basin are still the main, emphasis. That's what we're focusing on. Until the basin metrics show we can support new development, I think the purveyors are going to say, no, we need to get the basin into balance. That's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, but we just heard the county say that it will serve, which, the purveyors can offer, oversees whether we have proven to be a sustainable basin.
But
so
we're not there yet. So you're not going to see, in our district, we do not put in new meters.
Well, Golden State recently did. So that's my question, because.
But he's CSD, so he can't speak on Golden State.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out. What's going on. Thanks.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Ron? Larry.
Yeah, I think, just to clarify, I think what Ron is saying is we wouldn't be drawing water out when we're in a drought situation. We'd be using the imported water during times when we're not, and there is available water. And by doing that, we're not pumping water out of the basin, which helps the basin revive itself basically, and help seawater intrusion reverse itself. So we're not expecting to get water during the drought times, but if we can use outside water during the good times, it helps the basin kind of recover itself.
Thank you, Larry. That's exactly, I didn't elaborate that. The concept is to draw water, and you have to understand we use about 1,000 acre feet in the community. We're looking at 200 acre feet to help supplement. So we'll never be reliant on outside water, or at least in the near term, but it is to draw water when it's available, rely on our basin when it's not, and slowly bring it back into balance.
Perfect. Very well said. Okay, any other questions? Ron, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here tonight.
Good to see everybody.
Chamber of Commerce report, Jim Stanfield.
Yeah, real quick, main focus is on our Oktoberfest, which is coming up October the 30th, the last Sunday in October. We'll start with a pancake breakfast by Kiwanis early in the morning, a run starting at 9. Car show will be kind of developing at that point. We hope to have as many as 100 cars. And then the beer garden will be there. The music will start roughly around noon, and should be a fun day all around. A lot of vendors and food trucks and so forth. We're back, and that's good news.
That's great news. Okay, any questions for Jim from the council or the public? Okay, thank you very much. Public comments for items not on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes and there's no discussion on the comments. I have a hand for Jeff Edwards. You've been asked to unmute.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jeff Edwards, and I wanted to elaborate on some of the water discussion that we're having and provide some data points regarding our groundwater basin and water resources overall. For those that haven't lived in Los Osos very long, we realized peak water demand in 1988, and that was at 3,500 acre feet per year, which included 2,500 acre feet in the urban area, which is equivalent to a 150 gallons per person per day. Today, our urban area, as you heard, uses about 1,000 acre feet per year, and our per capita demand is about 65 gallons per person, indoor and outdoor. Our total demand, including agriculture, is about 2,000 acre feet per year. Again, down from 3,500 over 30 years ago. And by the way, the population in Los Osos has remained constant for over 3 decades at 14,500 people plus or minus. Some folks have advanced a false narrative about inadequate water for the people that live here today and the habitats that we enjoy. I think this is irresponsible and without foundation. Here are some of the facts. In a highly conservative move, the Basin Management Committee recently changed the basin safe yield from 2,760 acre feet per year to 2,380 acre feet per year, a 360 acre foot reduction. Los Osos observes water neutral development with water offsets for new or increased water use anywhere in the community. The Title 19 retrofit to build ordinance has been highly effective since its inception in 2008. And we have projected additional conservation that's yet to be realized on the order of about 250 acre feet per year. This is about 25% of our current demand. Additionally, our community spent $200 million on a wastewater recycling facility that includes the improvements and recharge at the Broderson site. The water purveyors, which you heard in part earlier, Los Osos CSD and the Golden State Water Company, are actively implementing basin plan programs, including programs A and program C wells. So my ask is let's cut out the rhetoric that we hear and let's stick to the facts about our current uses of water in Los Osos. And the unfortunate part
Jeff, your 3 minutes is up. Thank you for your comments. Sorry. It is off now. Lindy, you have 3 minutes for public that's it. Let's unmute you first. Okay, you're been unmuted.
Okay, thank you. I guess first I'll just respond to Jeff's comments, and I think we just all want to feel that our basin is safe. Those of us that run with caution have looked at seawater intrusion not stopping, nitrates increasing in certain parts of the bay, or the aquifer, a plant that is producing the recycled water, but we're not sure if it's really going into the right place. The point is, in 1988, yes, we used a lot more water, and that's why we have saltwater intrusion. That's why we have the mess. So it doesn't matter that we've gotten better. It's the damage has already been done. I think what those of us that are concerned about the sustainable yield and the possibility of new growth damaging the water that we are currently needing are just saying that it doesn't, you can't go back and change what we did in 1988. We're dealing with what we have today. And yes, it's you can put infrastructure in on the other side of the basin, but it's still the same basin, whether you draw from the other side and try to stop the saltwater intrusion. This isn't a situation that's going to get better by bringing in 40 houses a year. And even with offsets, the offsets are being challenged. They weren't correct. So anyway, and I just want to go back to the idea that this homeless situation, I think as a community, we need to ask the county to provide more spaces and humane spaces. If you go out to Kansas, you'll be kind of disgusted at the treatment of the people out there. They're treated like they were, I shouldn't say it, but rats. They don't have adequate showers. They don't have adequate services. The millions of dollars are just being spun around at the top in administration. And I don't know why we cannot get some basic humane areas set up. And I think it's up to our community, if we want Palisades empty, to demand that those new spaces show up. And they could even be here. Thank you.
All right. Any other public comment? All right, thank you, guys. Let's move on to approving the minutes from June 23rd and July 28th. Can I have a motion?
Move approval.
Okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
I'll second. Andrea.
All in favor, raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Okay, they are approved unanimously. Let's go to committee reports. The treasurer's report, Jim Stanfield.
Has no new revenue, no new expenses, continuing with the same balance we had at the last month.
And what is our balance right now?
I have it right here. Filed for quick and ready reference. Yes, I don't. Okay, I will find and get it for you for later in the meeting. Okay.
Or just make sure we have it for next month, okay?
All right, will do.
Thank you. Land use, Larry?
Main announcement is next month's meeting, instead of on the 5th of September, which is the first Monday, it's going to be on the second Monday, the 12th of September. We've got 3 items on the agenda: vacation rental and a couple of house. Anyone interested, come on by.
Okay. Trees and landscaping, John and Andrea.
Andrea, do you want to carry the ball first?
Sure. Thanks, John. John and I had a great chat today. And we have not even tentatively, we have scheduled our first meeting for September 20th at 6 p.m. We are hoping to do that in person at the South Bay Community Center, but we're waiting for approval for that. So stay tuned. John, do you want to talk about some of the items we're going to discuss?
Yeah, I wanted to change that to a Zoom meeting if we could, just to feel more comfortable. We might be able to get more people to be part of it if we do it by Zoom. But yes, we'd like to be a very active committee in tree and landscape, with a lot of projects, with the need to plant trees in the community. And one of the major ones that I'm very hopeful about is to plant trees along the LOVR corridor between the Palisades and Pine. And there's some indication, the county is always an obstacle to try to get right-of-way approval to plant trees. But there's some hope that we may be able to get an advocate with the county to plant trees right along the corridor that would be eventually a trail, a bike and walking trail. And I think everybody here in this room knows the need to have a walking trail and biking trail along LOVR. So that's one project. Also, the trail from the South Bay Boulevard into the schools, between the two schools, we'd like to rekindle interest in planting trees along that corridor. So those are two projects that we're talking about.
Great, thank you. All right, let's go to outreach with Kristen.
Outreach is not a very active committee, so if anybody has feelings about how we do outreach or how we reach more of the population, I would love you to join. But I do want to give a shout out to Tom, who has been incredibly helpful and got all of the YouTube videos archived and set up nicely. So you can now go onto YouTube and find all of our archived videos. So good job, and thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. All right, Ad hoc Water Committee, Deborah.
Okay, so we're going to be, first of all, I'd like to thank Larry Rayo for joining the Ad hoc Water Committee. He's a welcome addition, and he and I will be working together to present the water report for the council going forward. This month's report is going to be on the other end of water, which is wastewater. And it's been discussed at prior meetings about the difference between areas in the prohibition zone, which had to connect to the sewer, and then areas that are not in the prohibition zone that are not connected to the sewer. And so I have a little bit of information about that I think you're going to find interesting. I am going to share screen and start over here. This is a report from the county. It's the Local Agency Management Program. The short version is LAMP. And the purpose of LAMP is to allow the continued use of on-site wastewater treatment systems, that means septic, within the jurisdiction of the county of San Luis Obispo, as well to expand the local program, blah, 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 of non-conventional on-site water treatments. All right, so what are we talking about here? We're talking about a new kind of permitting for what they're calling non-conventional on-site water treatment systems. And these non-conventional systems provide additional treatment of the effluent to reduce nitrogen. So we talk about nitrates all the time. So we're talking about nitrogen, total suspended solids, the biological oxygen demand, and also it could provide disinfection against pathogens and alternative methods. So let's get into this a little bit. I'm not going to go into the history too much, but it does say Los Osos in particular has been susceptible to elevated nitrogen loading and groundwater degradation and is identified in many locations as severely or moderately impacted. Okay, this is something we know. So these are the, I wanted to point out these areas because these are areas that are exceptions and are not going to be included in this new requirement. If you can see on the left of this map, there's these little red dots. Okay, those are the sections over here, which show the Martin track and I think it's Highlands or something. So those areas are not part of this new requirement. Let me get that back to where we can see it. And now we're going to get into the areas that will be required to do this new kind of treatment for wastewater. Where you see the red and the orange, these are areas that are severe or moderately nitrogen loading areas. So these are impacted areas. We're talking about Cabrillo, we're talking about up here, all the areas that are not part of the sewer, except for these sections that have been eliminated for whatever reason. I can't answer the question why, but if you want me to find out, I will try. So what does this mean? In these areas, any new or repair of your septic system in these areas will require the installation of a supplemental treatment system in accordance with Section 8 of this LAMP. All right, what are we talking about? Just come on down here. New residential systems or systems generating only domestic water in these areas have to achieve these certain metrics. And you will now be required to obtain an operating permit issued by the county planning and building, and it will be a permit required prior to final inspection. So let me take you to, I'm gonna stop that, and I'm gonna take you to another little screen so we can have a look at what this looks like. So this is one of these advanced systems. The tank has different compartments where it treats the waste, and they're actually, these are like mini wastewater treatment plants in your home. And then you see you have these, the leach field. The cost for these wastewater treatment plants are between $20,000 and $60,000. In addition to the build out cost, you have a service agreement with the company that designs and builds it. You have regular lab testing, and you have to pay annual fees to the county. The fees to the county are $668. So this is what we're looking at. Now, when do you have to do this? When your leach field fails, or when you're adding onto your home and it puts a strain on your septic system, you will be required to put in this new system. Not if your tank fails, you can replace your tank, but if you add a bunch of bedrooms, or if you're building a new home, or if your leach field fails for whatever reason, you will be required to install this new system. Let me see what else I have here. A major remodel is one of the triggers. The system must be designed by a registered professional. You have to have as-built plans. They're changing the setbacks. The setbacks will increase from current standards. You cannot restore your original design. You have to go with this supplemental treatment component. ADUs could possibly trigger this if we had an ADU, which we don't right now. And then, there's strict requirements for the leach fields. The county has to approve all of this. So it says right here, supplemental treatment components are basically miniature wastewater treatment plants with technology and machinery that can be as complex as those in large municipal systems. I mean, it's kind of cool, really, but it's kind of expensive. So there you go. There has been some inquiry into the feasibility and the cost of connecting these areas to the wastewater treatment plant. And that is because the wastewater treatment plant wants the water. The wastewater treatment plant has more capacity than what is being used, and they would welcome additional homes hooking up. However, in these higher elevation areas, getting the waste down the hill is problematic because you have to set up a system of brakes. You can't just let it all flow down the hill. So it's expensive, and I don't even know what's involved, but there is some conversation about that. And so I don't know how many people knew about this, but it's a new twist to what's going on in our water system. Any questions or anything you want me to follow up with on this? I'm happy to do it.
Great information.
It was awesome. Thank you.
That's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is cool.
As long as you don't have to pay for it and just look at it, it's kind of cool. But if you have to put that system into your home, if you don't have enough room to install this new leach line, I don't know what happens then.
Yeah.
So
There's going to be a lot more questions, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to Active Transportation Committee then.
I'll just keep on going.
Yeah, just keep on going.
Keep on going. So the committee's been working on establishing priorities for safe and complete streets in our community. You guys know this. I'm just going to read you what it says in the Los Osos Community Plan. Pedestrian plan and active transportation plan, the county planning and building and public works departments should coordinate with the community to develop, incorporate, and implement a pedestrian plan and active transportation plan into this community plan. That is our goal, because that's the first step. With this in mind, we've been working with Public Works, County Planning and Building, LOCAC, the San Luis Obispo Council of Governments, and the Bicycle Advisory Committee to get some movement forward into creating this amendment to the LOCP, which would include an active transportation plan. The state of California and Caltrans has established this standard of complete streets. And what does that mean? Complete streets are streets designed and operated to enable the safe use and support mobility for all users. That includes all ages and abilities, regardless of whether they are traveling as drivers, pedestrians, bicyclists, or public transportation riders. Yes, this is what we want. Currently, the requirement of complete streets applies to new development. Okay, we don't have new development here. We know that, very little. And so we have to look at improving our existing infrastructure. Little problem with that is that we don't really have any fees, because they collect fees from developers to pay for improving infrastructure. And we only have $90,000 in our account right now for fees, which won't even put up a signal light. So these are some challenges. We have other challenges when it comes to improving infrastructure. The Coastal Commission has not yet approved the LOCP, and so we can't move forward until they do. The LOCP is our roadmap. The Los Osos Community Plan is our roadmap for Los Osos. Also, the Habitat Conservation Plan has not been approved by Fish and Wildlife. This spells out the measures necessary for mitigating impacts to environmentally sensitive areas. Some of you may remember we had a sidewalk over by Baywood Elementary School, one block of sidewalk. It was designed and funded, but it was stopped cold because there were some snails. And so now we can't move forward because we don't have this habitat conservation plan approved. So as an unincorporated area of SLO County, Los Osos does not have the governing structure of a city that would allow us to make these decisions regarding infrastructure. We are dependent on the volunteers of LOCAC to create and communicate the needs of our community to the Board of Supervisors. Just to add another challenge, after December 31st, Los Osos will no longer have an elected member of the Board of Supervisors to represent our community. But we're not deterred. Our goal, as a community, we will not give up. We will keep on going. We are going to create this active transportation plan. It will incorporate the ideas of complete streets while maintaining the character of Los Osos. And then our goal, as I stated, will be to then add this to or amend it to the existing LOCP. We know it's a challenge, but I have a great committee And I want to thank all my committee members, by the way, for being so dedicated and working so hard on this, because you know what? It's really, a lot of people are involved in making this happen. So that's my report in a 2-page nutshell.
Thank you. Any questions for any of the committees? Okay, thank you, guys. The next item is going to be a regular agenda item. I just want to say a couple of things first, because I know there's a lot of people who want to speak upon this tonight. So I'm going to have Larry introduce the project. I'm going to have the project owner and representatives then speak. Then we're going to have a council discussion. And the council can ask the applicant and their representative questions, and then we'll have public comment. And public comment will be 3 minutes each. And I do have a timer, as you guys heard earlier. Okay, so Larry, you're on.
Okay, this is a project that Hope is the daughter of the owner of the land. And they want to clean up the area there by recycling the organic material back into the ground, dig a pit, bury it up.
And this is the Los Osos nursery, correct?
Yes, correct. Okay. Yeah. And so they went to the county. County told them they actually didn't need a permit, but the county didn't know the scope of the work that was being done. And so Hope got it about 99% completed. And then the county came along and said, whoops, it's too big, you need a permit. So they've been working with the county hand in hand to get the permit. And so that's why the permit has come to us here to support it or not support it. And so that's why we have the project. Hope will introduce her agent on this. And Hope, I'm sorry, I don't know your last name.
Merkel.
Merkel, please introduce yourself and the folks that are helping you with this.
And we do have April here, who's the project manager, so I want her to be involved also. Okay, Hope, you're up. Oh, you are being asked to unmute. Okay, you should be on, Hope.
I still see them muted.
Okay, I just asked again. Huh. Well, it's not unmuting on my side. Anybody else? Deborah, can you try?
I'm not even, oh, here she is. Let's see. How's that? Can you unmute now, Hope?
Oh, not good. All right, come on.
Looks
Let's
like
try
he's
one more.
unmuted now.
Yeah, Hope, on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, there's a microphone there. If you click on that, that should unmute you.
On the bottom, left-hand bottom.
Left-hand bottom.
All right, let me try it on this side.
Yeah, I think she's just not unmuting.
But I think we can do it on the far right under participants.
Let's see. Let me find her name. Where are you? Oh, here you go. Let's see.
There we go. There you go.
Success.
All right, good.
Oh my goodness. Okay, our first time. So My mom and so my mom and dad bought the nursery back in 1976. And I've been there ever since I was a little girl, and I love what I do. And we have just tried to make, a business and an amazing place and something that we love. Something I love is plants. My favorite plants are drought tolerant plants from South Africa, Australia, all the areas of the world that are just like drought depleted, and now they fit in very well to California. We've lived on this property, and I just, this property is an incredible piece of property. It has an incredible vibe, as you will. It has, it just has good energy. And I literally have tried my whole life to do drought tolerant. So I feel like, I'm known kind of within family and friends as the cornstarch queen, because I've done this cornstarch thing, saving water. Anyway, we're going to do our video and yeah, go from there. And so am I allowed to do my presentation now?
Yes, you are. Are you going to share your screen then?
Just needs to allow it. So it says the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
Multiple. Okay, you should be good. Okay, you have started.
Okay, so this is back the first year that we opened, and there's myself, our dog Cricket, my cat Jimmy, Celeste is the 23-year-old farm cat, Josephine, my brother Curtis, Chinook, and Lady the horse, and my dad Lee. And they started the nursery
1977.
1977, and we're just a little farm nursery that started to try to just have a place to live. And once the building moratorium, my dad was a contractor, built many homes in Los Osos, and once that moratorium went in, decided, maybe we should just make the nursery our thing, and that's what we've done. And I think the last time that we had a meeting, we discussed hugelkultur, and that was a word that was thrown out there, but it was a little maybe unclear to some people what it is. So we would like to discuss that a bit tonight, and so we can let the community know what it actually is. So our next here, lasagna gardening. And if anybody ever watched the Hope for Your Garden show back in 10 years ago, I did a huge thing on hugelkultur and lasagna gardening. It's a centuries-old technique that's used to make deficient soil beautiful, and it's using wood, big logs, layers of organic material, and just your excess waste of branches and leaves and different things, and they're recycled into making this incredible rich soil, huge in microbes, and just can allow plants to grow with winter rains. A lot of things that people would normally consider throwaway items can then be recycled back into the earth, right? Just pretty amazing. Yeah, and it also does make it like a sponge and soaks up water, which leads us to why it's so important. Yeah, so a lot of people, when I was little, used to come into the nursery and they would say, oh, I need a surfactant, I need something to make this soil work. Well, the normal things that people thought for Los Osos. So I was like, I think 13 years old, and I took actually a soil sample to Cal Poly, and one of the Dr. Brown helped me figure out that our soil is sugar fine. Its particles are smaller than a water molecule, and that's why the soil runs off. We then had a neighbor who moved here and who was a soil restoration from Africa. He now, like, that property is now the Robertson property where all the avocados grow, and he wanted an avocado field. He brought in over 600 yards of soil to fix our soil. And what he showed me was that we weren't going to fix our soil just by adding a little bit of amendment. You really had to go deep, and you had to add. And so our soil is smaller than a water molecule. It's sugar fine. It locks out oxygen, and it locks out nutrients. And those microbes can't grow without it. So water will run off the top, and it looks like there's an oil slick, but it's actually just because of the molecule side. So getting lots of organic material in there is the way that we replace that and can create a livelihood and can create what we've done in the back of the nursery and what we've done throughout different people's yards. I mean, I'm always just love when people send me the pictures of the yards that they've created and winter rain landscapes.
And by the back of the nursery, she's referring to our demonstration, small little plot in the back where we built the hugelkultur, right?
Yeah, so
And
we've done this, we've dug down and added the good soil and added the logs from some of our local tree places.
manure from the local horse farms, kind of dispersing
Everybody
that
has helped out with that.
nitrogen. And this is a photo of a beautiful garden.
And this is a very, very water use garden. And that, instead of just turning off your water and letting your plants die and creating a concentration camp, you can actually create something beautiful. And there are things you can do, cornstarch and soils and kelp. And you can add this to your soils and you can create something for virtually free. Hold on to water.
So that's what we've been doing with all of the waste at the property. That was the plan, was to bury it, create beautiful soil at a larger scale than this small demonstration garden for our customers. Right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing we want to discuss
was the restoration. And I hear, I get that people, you hear restoration and you hear it from different areas and different people, and it means different things. To me, it meant just getting the property to a level where I could mow it. If anybody's ever driven a tractor, they know that you can't go over berms easily and you can't mow those berms. So those berms that you created to make, to hold water actually become just weed banks, seed banks, because you can't go over them safely. And so I am a novice tractor person, and I saw a tractor roll one time with somebody on it, and I am so afraid of berms. So I wanted everything really flat and easy. And I asked some family members, hey, could you guys come down and could you help me get this flat and taken care of? And they were like, yeah, that, we'll move this and we'll create this and this will be awesome. We moved too much soil at one time. And so that basically, we were trying to do this during the winter, after the winter rains came, trying to get it. So in that, we had to move the soil in a specific way. So I needed to take all the composted soil that was on top and move it to one side, and then get all the new soil out of the ground that was just the soil that's barren and unfertile, and have it put into another pile so that I could then add the composted stuff and then layer it back so that it was evenly mixed, so that we could then have what's called as a hugelkultur and have this beautiful fertile soil that I can grow, that things can grow that are without any water.
And so it's safe for you to move a tractor to remove the invasive weeds and do timely seasonal mowing so we can remove the invasive weeds seed bank that exists on the property. And eventually
have something beautiful and glorious.
Mhm.
And where we have lots of birds. I mean, and I already have, I'm very proud to say that we have over 5 of the nesting orioles and families that are, the rare birds.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I'm curious, if what the community would have to say to that. And
Well, I think we'll go to council members first and see what they have to say. And I think we'll need our screen back so that I can see all of their faces.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry, can you kind of fill us in on what happened with land use and what their thoughts were?
Land use thought that this permit, is completely acceptable. It's in a hold position right now while they're gathering documents and information and stuff, but hearing from county presenting to us at the land use meeting, there didn't seem, it's just a matter of time. It's to do the paperwork and stuff. They didn't see any big red flags or any problems with this project. It's just a time-consuming paperwork coming to us. We missed a whole month on this project because our meeting fell on one of the holidays. So land use supported the project. There were 2 people that wanted some more information on the project.
Okay.
But we thought there was sufficient enough information to move this project along.
Thank you. And April, anything that you from the county side can add to this?
Yes, we've been working very closely together. I've been talking with different people from my management staff. Today, I got to talk to Public Works. We're definitely trying to do our due diligence with this project. We've had some revised plans come in. They did complete the actual application. I just got that the other day, so we can make that available for people to view. So far, we're just trudging along. After we deem this project accepted, then we're going to be moving into environmental review. So we'll be looking more closely at the different species that could have been affected there. We'll be looking more closely at the different cultural resources that could be in the area. But so far, Hope and Tish and the great work by Rye, everyone has been really compliant. It's just trying to get where they needed to be to begin with. And it's just an unfortunate situation that, they just went and thought they didn't need the permit. And, 50 cubic yards can be hard to estimate.
Yeah.
I had to look it up many times on Google just to see like, okay, well, about how much of an acre are we talking about? Because if you do move over 50 cubic yards of dirt, you do require a special permit for that, a grading permit. So right now, as they're getting through what's called their minor use permit and their coastal development permit, after then, when it comes time to apply for the construction permit, which even though they're not actually doing any building, it's still part of the process. Then they'll be required to do like their drainage plan and their stormwater plan to be able to move forward in the process to complete the work that they have begun.
Thank you, April. Okay, Deborah.
I went down and I looked at the property. This is in my district, and Hope and Trish, Trish's Hope's mom. Hi, Trish.
Tish.
Tish.
Sorry.
You're Trish. That's Tish.
That's Tish. We're close.
And as I remember, Hope, there was some non-organics that you were removing from the area and separating the trash from the organics, and really we talked about cleaning up where there was potential for snakes and rats and things like that. Could you talk a little bit about that and what you did with the different types of material?
Yeah, so our we basically had 3 piles out there, maybe 4, but it was basically leaves, brush, smaller matter, and then we did have trash matter, like some old we actually had a hot tub that was out there. We had just some, like the old plastic PVC pipes that are on the property, some old pots that went into one pile. And then so those pipes and plastic and non stuff went into one pile. And then that was going to get hauled away to the trash sites at Mission. We took a couple away to Mission, but the sorting process takes time because you're covering little bits of layers from over the years. So as they separated it out, it went into a pile. We also have a metal pile, like the old grates, the old pipes that were kind of unearthed years ago, the iron pipes, and those went into a recycled iron pipe, metal pipe work. And so it's just kind of getting those separated. When they asked us to stop everything, we stopped everything. I didn't take away the trash pile. I didn't take away anything. I just left it. So there's still, a pile there, but it was kind of clearing out, just making sure that everything was really segregated so that nothing went into the ground that wasn't supposed to go. Everything was just going to go to its own place. So the metal and that pile and the pile with the plastics and the compostable stuff went into one pile, and we have one very small pile left of that, and then basically everything else has kind of been moved around.
Thank you. Kristen.
Hi, April. I had a question for you about this because I actually have a lot of experience with the grading. And like this one, the reason I have experience is doing mountain bike trails. Because you guys, this is obviously like not a traditional reason why we have to move the cubic feet. What's the intent behind that regulation?
For the amount of cubic yards that we move?
Yeah, why a grading permit? What triggers that? Like, why not 30? And like, what was it designed to do?
I think I might be too new to be able to answer that part.
Okay.
So I don't even think I should probably throw out a wild guess.
Totally fair. I appreciate that. Barring that information, I just wanted to lend support because I actually do this out on a property in San Luis Obispo, but I do the mounds. So I'm not subject to the grading problem, which is really what this seems to be caused by, which is a bummer.
Nice. Well, I've got a stack of notes about 2 inches thick with me right next to me. So as we continue through this, I will go through and I will look at.
I can do it too. I'm great at research, so thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for your question.
I think the intent of the 50 yards was just because 50 yards isn't a substantial amount of soil where anything over that would be considered just substantial. I mean, it's kind of just a number that they came up with, but that you could move 50 yards without really creating too much of a interference on your property.
Thanks, Larry.
And Andrea, you're next up for your question.
Thank you. This is really procedural, so it might be for April. So the project is on information hold, and the information that you're waiting for, would that typically be information that would be provided to the advisory council to consider prior to making a recommendation?
Yes, and I did email over some of the stuff. This was only yesterday though that it was all coming in, so there hasn't really been a lot of time to be able to review everything. But we did send over things, but it was barely 24 hours ago that I did.
Okay, and just to make sure, there is still an information hold on it. You're still waiting for additional information. I just want to be clear. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions from Jim? Oh, you're muted. Sorry. There, oops.
Jim, you're muted.
What are we being asked as the council to do? What is our role here tonight?
Our role is to see if the Los Osos Nursery can continue to work through the process and get a minor use permit.
And you're waiting for our approval to do that?
Yes.
I move approval.
Thanks.
I second it.
Okay, we do need to get public comment.
I have a motion, that's all right. We can still talk.
Yep. Okay, you want to finish the motion? Do we have a second?
I think Larry seconded it.
Larry did a
Yeah.
second.
Okay,
Can
let's,
I please be a stickler for procedure and can we
Yeah.
recommend versus approve? Because we don't really approve the permits, right? We only.
no, we recommend.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hand.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
So
Discussion first.
still
Discussion first.
You have some discussion?
You're right. Discussion first.
Good
Okay,
job, Tom. Thank you.
thank you. So let's go to public comment. And first hand up is Jeff Edwards, and I'm asking you to unmute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And before you start my time, I'd like to pull up my PowerPoint and share it, please.
Okay, you are open to do that. All right.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Edwards, and I have concerns about this project. This is what it looked like before the work was done. This is the applicant's original submittal for the 5-acre property, rather simplistic site plan. Hopefully the new one is much better. The water provisions, this property served not only by an on-site well, but also by Golden State Water, but there's been no representation about future or current water usage. Any approval should be conditioned to meter the on-site well. This is something that's been clamored for by the Basin Management Committee, LOSG, and others. There are 2 violations on this property right now for the unpermitted vegetation removal and grading. We're not talking about 50 yards in this case. We're talking about hundreds of yards, perhaps upwards of 300 yards that was moved, is being moved. And the MUP is also associated with grading for areas over an acre. Hugelkultur, by the way, is not exempt from a grading permit. We have a number of unanswered questions with this application. How much more trash is buried on the property? What actual quantity in cubic yards of soil has been moved? What's the square footage that's been disturbed? And what impacts have resulted to protected and endangered flora and fauna? This has been characterized as a site cleanup, a restoration. These folks have been considered good stewards of the land. I mean, the picture it belies that fact. This is an after the fact grading permit. In other words, they did not secure any permits in advance. They didn't do any biological studies or any of the other studies that other folks have to do. There's been likely a take of the endangered Morel shoulder-band snail. Mitigation fees that are set to go into place exceed $1 per square foot. So maybe this is something that's going to have to be paid. Their asphalt millings or grindings can pollute groundwater, and they've set probably 50 to 100 yards of these grindings that have heavy metals and hydrocarbons in them. Much of these grindings were spread out into a parking lot you can see today, perhaps without an encroachment permit, and we don't know where these grindings came from. A lot of this work was performed that was required a contractor's license, but was performed by unlicensed persons. Then there's the question of the fence that exceeds 3 feet in the front setback. You can't have that fence without a minor use permit that considers a number of findings to approve it.
Okay.
Been multiple
Thank you very
violations,
much.
local,
Thank you.
state, and federal. and
You're
it's
done,
pretty much-
Jeff. You're done. Sorry, you've got your 3 minutes. Thank you very much. If you could clear your screen, we can go to the next person.
Someone's got an opinion.
May I,
The next up needs to be a council member, Tom.
yes, I just wanted to ask April if any of the things referenced in that presentation haven't been addressed yet or have been addressed yet, or anything especially noteworthy of that presentation.
because the most recent screen that I saw said something about how they need to be treated the same as we're treating every other project. And I mentioned earlier that I am rather new. And because of that, everything that I do is probably under even more intense scrutiny than a planner who would have been here for years. Everything is, carefully orchestrated, not only by myself, but also my supervisor, our environmental coordinator, our directors, and the abundance of incredible colleagues that I have helping me through this. So there is, tons and tons of different things that are required with our applications, little boxes to check off and blank spaces to fill. I don't imagine any of us here, even myself as an employee, are experts at filling out paperwork. So I don't think that we should be discrediting Hope and Tish for, forgetting to fill out a checkbox. That's something that they have pointed out and done now and turn that in. And I will make that accessible for a public viewing so you guys can all see it tomorrow. Some of the other things, we are going to be confirming where the actual property lines are, how far they extend out into the public right of way. I did talk with Public Works about it earlier. So that's one of the things that's definitely on their radar of what's going on. So once we have that confirmation, that's other things that I can probably share through our Permit Slow portal too, for everyone else who's interested to look at that. Trying to go through my photographic memory of slides. Happy news, you guys might not be aware, but the shoulder band snail is actually a threatened species now as of February 2022. It was voted on. It's no longer endangered. They actually have found thousands of those snails. So way to go to all you Los Osos people for helping make that happen. This doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to be requiring biological reports to be done for development, including the nursery. This is stuff that's going to come up in the environmental review and will be decided on not by myself, but by our management team, much more experienced people in the field than myself. But I do believe that we're putting the nursery through the same scrutiny that we would put any other project through.
Thank you, April. Patrick.
Thank you. Since the Los Osos Sustainability Group was mentioned in this, I'd just like to comment and say that, yes, we would like to have all wells, private wells metered, including all agricultural wells, but this is not part of that project. This has nothing to do with their well. They're not going to be using anything. So we support this project. Thank you.
Okay, public members, you have 3 minutes. Lindy, you had your hand up first. I just asked you to unmute.
Thank you. What I sense from this project is we saw it way prematurely, and that the nursery got very bad information and direction, or their advisor didn't help them do what is required to do with a project of this type. I totally support what they're trying to do and understand the methods, but there are so many people that have just been, I don't know, taken to the river on the requirements that are so severe and strict sometimes. And yet this project did not get the guidance it should have had to know that they needed to do different steps and maybe different methods of how it was done. So I support the project going ahead, but I think the county we need to review it again when it's done, and those requirements of the meter on the well and many improvements, as far as paying code violations for illegally grading, I think that can be mitigated in some way too. So I would like to see the project go forward, but I don't think we're ready until we see the project. It's not complete, and it hasn't been. And that's what's missing here. So anyway, that's my comments. Thank you, April.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Austin Lee. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Austin Lee. Many of you may not know I am the 3rd generation with it being Tish, my grandmother, and then Hope, my mother, and then I am Austin Lee. And I just wanted to share my personal experience with my mother's stewardship. I think any of you can drive around Los Osos Valley Nursery, well, not Los Osos Valley Nursery, but Los Osos in general, and see the impact of the advice that my mother has given in terms of how to use your water resources intelligently and how to plant plants in a fashion that allows our community to thrive and retain water. Like if you look, a lot of yards have leucadendron in them, and those are pretty much the hot topic at Los Osos Valley Nursery every single year. So, you know, I really appreciate everybody here taking a look at everything. And I'm so proud of my mom for doing that presentation. I thought it was fantastic, of course, but I'm biased, so I'd like to put that out there. But it's a really fantastic thing. You know, I grew up on the property, and it's dramatically improved even since I was younger. And you know, to hear individuals in the community who might be upset at it, I don't know necessarily their motives or their perspective, but I understand they have a place at these things. But I don't think it belies the fact that my family has actively tried to improve the community the entire time we've been here. So thank you all so much. And I really appreciate you taking this on.
Thank you. Next, public member Christina, you have 3 minutes. And you are unmuted.
Hi, I just wanted to say, Tish and Hope and Austin, you know what? I am feeling so bad that you guys have to jump through so many hoops to pull some weeds and clean up your trash. I have worked with all 3 of you on planting plants that are water wise for this community, for cleaning up, man, for planting food. You know, there was talk about pumpkins. Now we can't do pumpkins because we might meter a well. You know, let's just have dirt and dust. And oh, maybe the dust is going to fly, so we need water spray bottles to spray down the dust. To what end? To what end? What you guys do for the community, what you have done, what you're trying to do with that property, I can't even fathom how you have to go through so much to just try to do so little. You're just trying to clean things up. And I support you guys 100%. If it takes me getting out there and pulling weeds with you guys, you know what? We can have a contractor write the contract and we'll pull the weeds side by side. You know what? If you need a spray bottle to keep the dust down, we'll do that too. I mean, for several people in this community to get up in arms on this and not have their PowerPoint presentations, you know, we got to look at those sources and we got to know where the other source is. And I support you guys, and man, any help you need, freaking holler. I'm right there with you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Tom, you're next.
Yes, I spoke briefly, so I'm going to just try to speak very briefly again. I wanted to echo the previous speaker's frustrations on some of the discussion that was held at the Land Use Committee, and I want to highlight that at the Land Use Committee where this was discussed, there is an overwhelming amount of public support for this, and I just wanted that on record. And to end that, I want my hope for the Land Use Committee in the future is for it to play a more supportive role for our community and not be as adversarial as I saw it be. That is all. Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Kristen.
I'll keep mine short as well. This reminded me that I monitor the emails and I saw a huge flood of people emailing in public support, and I wanted to also acknowledge that in public record, because I was like, what is this about? I don't even know, because it hadn't come up on the agendas yet. And then finally, you know, we talk about sustainable water. The reason that I'm doing the hugelkultur as well is because I want to be able to put the water back into the ground basin that I'm working at. And so if we're talking about that, here's an active person intending to do that, having done development myself, just as the county person said, when you're doing something big and you don't know what you're doing and you're trying your best, sometimes you don't get the full information you need, or sometimes, and like, this is what happened. I cannot believe that we go from, oh, this wasn't perfect to like, all of this stuff isn't perfect. I think we'd have to do that for almost every homeowner and every renter here in Los Osos. So I just wanted to honor that.
Thank you. April?
I just wanted to speak a little bit about our referral process. So when a project first comes into us, the very first thing that I do as a planner is I send out a referral. So that referral goes to 2nd District Legislative. It goes to, in this case, I know I sent it out to like the Los Osos Education Department there, sent it out to different, basically different county entities and different state entities, then have the opportunity to voice their opinions. So you guys see this, like all of our referrals at a pretty early stage in all of the projects that come in, whether things are on info holds or whether things are 100% accepted and ready to go. And for so far, every project that I have taken in, I haven't had a single project come in where I didn't have the people go onto information hold. There always seems to be something missing, something that we can find, that we try to do our due diligence to make sure that we get those things before we accept the project. So then everything is already hopefully taken care of by the time that it gets to the point of going to a planning department hearing or planning commission, or even the board of supervisors at that highest level. So I know it can be really frustrating to be asked to vote on something that you don't have the complete story on, but part of the reason why we do this is so we can get your feedback first, and then we can decide like, okay, well, there seems to be a lot of concern about the traffic or the visibility around that corner on Los Osos Valley Road. We should really make sure that we make sure that's safe. And that'll be one of the requirements that we have, like in that information hold, or something that comes up doing our environmental review to make sure we're covering all the bases for the California Environmental Quality Act. So I just wanted to speak up about that to make it seem like we're not intentionally trying to waste anybody's time. We're just doing our due diligence, and the process, like one of the first parts of the process is sending out that referral at a very early stage. Thank you.
Thank you, April. That was great. We'll have one more community and then we need to move on. That would be Peg. And she just disappeared.
No, here I am.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
I need to unmute my, these processes are not that easy for older people. So I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Peg Pinard, and I am a former county supervisor who's very familiar with the county's planning processes, especially having been the supervisor in charge of getting the massive oil contamination in Avila Beach cleaned up. There's probably not an aspect of county planning that I haven't dealt with. I've been following this issue since it involved one of my favorite destinations and one of the last remaining locally owned nurseries in the county. This nursery is beautiful and a wonderful place to learn about drought-tolerant plants and shop. The owner is amazing in the amount of time she is willing to give customers, and I hope you appreciate how lucky you are to have such a treasure right in your own backyard. As someone who worked hard for government to be responsive and accountable, I have an observation, a quick one, that I'd like to share regarding this project. While it is important for county planning to make sure that environmental concerns are being dealt with fairly and with an even hand, it is also very important that the county not be used as a weapon of harassment against anyone. As people supporting this permit have said in prior meetings, there may be those who have unspoken hidden agendas. Surely the land this business occupies could be tempting for anyone seeing it as a potential site for lots of real estate development. Such special interests could be tempted to disparage the project or bring up issues that are not part of this permit. It is important that LOCAC acknowledges that this permit will be administered by the county's fair application of environmental requirements and oversight. It is also important that in order to remain in operation, businesses depend on not only fair, but also timely decisions. Failing to move this issue forward simply rewards anyone who may have such a hidden agenda. Reviewing projects is a responsible and timely manner is an important, my throat's dry. Reviewing projects in a responsible and timely manner is also important if the public is to maintain confidence in our government's review process. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for council and community or public. Let's go on to, we have a Patrick, real quick. We need to vote. We need to vote.
That's it. I just wanted to thank Supervisor Pinard for those comments.
Oh,
He
thank
hit it right on the head there, and let's go ahead and vote. And I raise my hand in support of the project.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was just like, okay, so to make sure we are doing this in order, we had the motion, we had the second, we had the council discussion, we had the public discussion, and now we get to vote.
Yes.
Correct.
Unless there are any serious objections.
Can you restate the motion, please? Is it just to support the project?
Exactly.
It is written down as move to recommend and then the project code.
Right.
Would the motion maker be willing to amend the motion? There was some language that the land use committee had about, it was supporting, and it's not in front of me, so I apologize, supporting the project with the understanding that there were still issues to be.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that well, but it was pretty well stated at the land use committee. And I think I could support a motion that talks about there are still things that need to occur. There's still information that needs to happen. And I'm not well putting that motion together, but maybe somebody can do it better than I.
Andrea, I was the one that made that motion. And it basically was that we support the project under the consideration that there are no changes as what has been presented to us, and that the county will inform us of any changes that might come.
And I have the land use minutes right here, and that's pretty much exactly what it was said. So thank you, Patrick. That's perfect. So the motion has been amended.
What was the amended motion?
Yeah.
The amended motion is, Patrick, do you want to restate it or do you want me to read it from here?
Go ahead and read it.
So move to recommend this project.
Concerning new water. Approval.
With the condition that there's nothing else changed, there's nothing changed that is different from what has been presented to us, and that the county will let us know of any changes in the future that may come.
Thank you, Patrick.
I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
I can support that.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. So the next part of our agenda is going to be a discussion, a council ad hoc meeting. So the public you can stay and listen, and at the end of both of our topics, if you have something you would like to discuss, you can discuss that with us about what we're talking about. But for the next however many minutes, it's just going to be council talking. Okay, so if you don't need to hear us talk about strategic planning, you can go home and enjoy your evening. So what I want to talk about next is I want to talk about the letter that was dated September 23rd, 2021, that has caused a lot of conflict with, I think, the council and the committees. I think if I can just kind of start with what I thought and what I thought I was signing for when I signed this letter last year, is I thought I was signing to support the BMC, because it says, you know, we want to express our full support submitted by our water purveyors dated August 25th. So I was supporting the BMC. I was also supporting the CCC suggestion not to support ADUs. But never did I say, and nor does this letter say, that I support zero development. You know, as far as remodels, adding a bedroom, adding a bathroom, whatever. That's not what my perception of what I signed. So I wanted to bring this up to the group, especially the people who are here and did sign it. What were your thoughts about it? And is there any way that we can re-look at this and come to a conclusion so that if something comes to us, we don't automatically say no without actually discussing the blueprints, discussing what the project truly is. Okay, I'll open it up. Tom, you have your hand up first.
Yes, I wasn't privy to writing this, but just from a parliamentarian perspective, this can at any point be moved to be reconsidered by the council, and we can just move forward with that as a motion. I have to look at the exact requirements for what a vote pass. And the wording is very vague, so at any time the motion does come before us that seems like it would conflict with that, that conflict can be discussed, and any vote that a council member comes to, it should be assumed that this is being considered, and they just consider it not to be a factor, if that makes sense. At least from my perspective.
Kristen, your thoughts?
I'm sorry. Oh, hang on. I'm trying to lower my hand, but I have the camera in the way. I actually saw it in the agenda for land use, and I can't make land use meetings, and I figured we'd hear about it. That's just the number 2 item on G was that they were going to discuss that and kind of reevaluate how that looked. And I'm kind of curious about how that came out, because it seemed like you guys are already trying to address the issue at that level.
Larry, do you want to?
Yeah, we never did. At the meeting, it was decided it would be better to discuss this at LOCAC, at the LOCAC.
Okay. I'm putting it, the little agenda item in that it was said that, because I thought it was good. And I was like, this is what I was hoping, that because we just have to be like, look, we don't have guidelines, so we can't recommend.
Right.
So let's just not hear it. And I thought that was brilliant. So
I think the only problem with that is that we are asked by the county to review projects, and that's what we're here for. We can defer things. We can tell them that until we are shown that we have a sustainable water supply, we will defer this project, not approve it or deny it, but defer it until there is proven sustainability, and then they can bring it back to us. We could do something like that possibly.
So point of order on that, because I actually looked into this. We ourselves, when the LOCAC was founded, we decided that we deserved attention. So we are not actually serving the county. I thought it was organized by the county. The organization actually serves itself, and if properly run, then the county gives us their services. So we actually can opt to not do that, because I was like, well, maybe it's our job and that would be the natural response to it. But our job is sort of what we decide our job is. And if we want to give some feedback on it, great, but we don't necessarily, we really can do anything we want to.
So one way that we can get around this is when we vote for projects, we can use our little hand up like this. So when we say all those that approve, put your hand up. All those that don't approve, put your hand up. And if you don't want to vote on it, you don't put your hand up either way. So it's not, you are not denying it, you are not approving it.
But then you're abstaining.
And abstaining is essentially.
No, you're not abstaining, because you're just not voting.
That's
what abstaining is.
That's what abstaining is.
Okay, so but usually when you abstain, what you're saying is that I am not going to approve or not going to vote one way or another on it. But the way we have it set up is if you abstain, it's a no vote. So then why not just say, no, I don't approve.
Exactly.
But we have so many people trying to abstain from doing that.
Okay, we have Tom, and I think Tom can clarify.
If it is the case that an abstention is a no vote, that should not be the case.
Right.
The way like an abstention works is like if an abstention is noted, it is simply there to prove that a quorum is present, but the votes for and against are the things that are considered. So if the votes for are in the majority or a super majority, depending on what the motion requires, it's versus the no votes, and the abstentions should not be considered at all. It should just be yes versus no.
Okay.
And if that's not the case, it should be clarified in the bylaws or however we want to do that.
And we will add that to our bylaws.
You shouldn't actually have to, you just have to pull out the piece where it says that it's a no vote, I think. Because he's right. Abstentions generally just to say, hey, I'm present. I didn't just piece out. So
exactly.
Right. It should not be a no vote. And there is a reason to abstain. And that is if you have some connection to whatever was being voted on. And that is a reason that people abstain. It's neither a yes or a no. It could be that you love the project or you hate the project or whatever. But if you have some connection, you really must abstain, and it should not be counted either way.
Very well put.
That will be a good bylaw change for our next meeting.
I want to talk a little more about this letter because it's actually caused me a lot of problems. I was new on the council when this letter was voted on. I was not that familiar with the land use process and the permitting process. And my understanding at the time was that this was a protest vote to the county, that it seemed like they were issuing a lot of permits and that we were wanting them to slow down in this process. But what happened was it was used as, and I was accused of not supporting LOCAC because it is in the policies and procedures that if as a member of council, that I must support all decisions made by LOCAC. And so then I was accused of not supporting LOCAC because I started voting for projects that I thought had merit. I hope you're following me, but you know, I started voting yes on projects that I thought had merit. And then I was accused of, well, you can't do that because you agreed to this letter, and this letter said we're not going to allow any of these projects. And so now you're in violation of policies and procedures. I just want to get that out because this is very problematic. Let me give you two examples. If LOCAC were to vote and say we are in favor of a bond measure or some sort of thing with the county, and we want to support this special taxing district, are you telling me I have to go to the ballot box and now I have to vote for that measure when it comes up? That's ridiculous. What if we approve a project to be built and Patrick wants to go to the Coastal Commission and get it appealed? Are we telling Patrick, you can't do that because LOCAC has approved this project and now we have taken away your ability to vote or express any opinion on this project that is any different from LOCAC? I think you can clearly see that this is very problematic and needs to be taken out of the policies and procedures, because in no way should LOCAC ever be able to silence someone or change their ability to vote their conscience for this council.
I want to speak to that.
If I can just say something, I didn't vote on this thing. So, you know, am I beholden to this letter?
Yeah, thank you. So another thing, so I actually ended up talking to the county about all of this because I was in the meeting when they told me I shouldn't have been on the board if I wasn't going to vote the way they told me to. We are a First Amendment right. That's how the county sees us. We wanted to tell the county what we thought. So we were a First Amendment right. We cannot violate our First Amendment by telling us individuals that we cannot have free speech. And I want to say one thing about this. It doesn't even have to do with the letter. When I first got on and John Eric used my name with the incorporation thing, and everyone was like, you are not allowed to use LOCAC. First Amendment right allows me to say that I'm part of LOCAC. It doesn't mean I'm representing LOCAC, but that these are all like big First Amendment rights that you all need to understand are really important. And it's not like I'm abusing it. I understand the fear that I would be, but this is something that was really concerning to me. And I don't think it's really there anymore. I think everyone's kind of settled in and are calm, but I just wanted to address that.
Yep. That's good. So what do you guys think we need to do about future meetings? Because the one other comment I'm going to make is when I joined land use years ago, land use, what our job was, we saw these blueprints, we went and we checked out the sites, we checked out the encroachments, we actually looked at the project. And one of the reasons I got off land use is they stopped looking at the projects, they just started saying no. So, you know, one of my fears, and I'm going to talk about this more in our next topic, is if we say no, just no, without looking at the project, without advising correctly on a project, why in the world would the county even send us anything anymore if they know we're not going to look at the project, we're just going to say no, and it's going to be gone? So, I mean, that's just one of my concerns.
Well, the letter talks also about the Coastal Commission. And I think the Coastal Commission made it pretty clear of where their stance is with their letter of April 19th, I believe it was. And that's where this letter of September 23rd, you know, we came through looking at that. Well, no, this was before that. But
this was way before,
this was
before you.
But the Coastal Commission has made that statement about where they feel our water basin is. They made the statement that they don't feel there is enough water possibly
But on September 23rd, the Coastal Commission was just having pending discussions. So at that time, we didn't have that. So at that time, signing this letter and, you know, signing this letter was the full support of our water purveyors, because the water purveyors were concerned at the time. Nowhere in this whole letter, which is highlighted, nowhere in this letter does it say no remodels, zero development.
Okay, so remodels are, you know, I think we've talked about that before. Remodels are a lot of different things.
Exactly.
So remodels that don't require additional water use are different than remodels that you want to put a garage in, or you want to put a office space in, or something like that, or even a bathroom in.
But then we turned down a man who had a 33-year-old mentally handicapped man or child who cannot even bring a caretaker in to take care of this child who is 33 with a mind of a 2-year-old.
Right.
To take care of this so that so the two of them can get some help, because the caretaker has to have a bathroom. They're not increasing the people, you know? So, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's not what I signed.
Right.
That's not what I signed.
Okay, well, can I stop real quick? That nothing in the letter forces anybody to take any action at all. It's a generalized letter that just says expect us to condition these projects where we can, and project analysis will be made with the understanding. We don't have to do anything with it. It's not, we can literally move on and just decide what we want to do going forward. I don't really think it matters what we signed. I think everybody agrees it didn't get interpreted right. The bylaws are a little bit messy. I can't tell forward.
Forward.
Weird with the screen.
Yeah. So I totally agree that the way the letter is written, it doesn't really require us to take any action at this time. And I think we need to certainly clarify that it does not mean that I have to vote yes or no on any project. I get to vote my conscience. But I would like to say in regards to Patrick's comments about the Coastal Commission, this is how I see it. You have the Coastal Commission, you have the Basin Management Committee, and you have the county. They're in charge of The Coastal Commission is in charge of the Estero Bay Plan. Obviously, they have their agenda. The county is in charge of their plan, and the Basin Management Committee is in charge of water. It's in the Los Osos Community Plan. It's all written out. Who's in charge of what? We approved the community plan. We were participated in the creation of the community plan. And I think it's incorrect for this advisory group to be putting ourselves in the position of deciding what's sustainable, what's not sustainable. It's out of our lane. That's the BMC. That is their job. The Coastal Commission has their piece. The county has their piece. This is out of our lane, people. And I think we need to just look at the projects like Trish described and approve them based on what we see, and have concerns about the water and talk about water and continue to bring that issue up. But when we start making decisions, blanket decisions based on what we decide that the water is, then I think we're out of our lane.
So what about if we make decisions based on what the Coastal Commission sees our water as? The Coastal Commission has a mandate to protect coastal resources, and our water basin is that. The county has an agenda, and the BMC is doing their best that they can using the modeling that they use, which they are now trying to change because they realize it hasn't served the purpose that they were hoping it would. The Coastal Commission is very clear on what we need to do as a community and as a county. So, you know, that my stance is that, yes, there are projects that should be approved here if we had the water to do it. And Trish had made the mention about that. Yes, he definitely deserved to have a bedroom and a bathroom for his caretaker. And we could all say, well, what happens if something happens and somebody else moves in there? Well, yes, that's a possibility. But when we start making personal judgments, and this is my concern, you know, and that's why I voted against that project. Because if I make a personal judgment, I say, this person has a good project and he deserves, or they deserve to have their project fulfilled. But no, this person has the same kind of project, but for a different purpose. And so I don't think that they deserve to be able to do it. When you start making personal decisions like that, I think you can get in big trouble. And I'm not willing to do that. So
Hey, Tom, you're up.
All right, cool. I just want to, I can let Patrick finish speaking. I just wanted to know that I do have a comment afterwards.
Well, and that was basically it. You know, when we start making personal decisions about things, you know, it's our personal decision, and it cuts the community out. You know, some people feel that, like, possibly one of the developers that speaks a lot might feel, well, you let this person do it, but you're not going to let me do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Okay.
Okay.
Go, Tom.
Yeah, I'm just my thoughts kind of came and went, but just give me a moment. Okay. We gotta remember what our place is in LOCAC. Like, okay, let's say a project comes to us and we move to recommend it, and that recommendation passes, and the county approves it, and then the Coastal Commission doesn't approve it. What happens in a case like that? For those of anyone who knows
Nothing.
that.
Then if they
It doesn't move forward.
Okay.
Project gets stopped.
So
No,
I
but
think
but it gives the applicant a sense of even entitlement that they're going to be able to move forward. And I think that's dangerous. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, someone who
Thank you. I think the best thing for us as LOCAC and the land use committee to do is not make those judgment calls based on how good a project is, but also know that each project is by case. So they may be similar in some ways, but vastly different in others that may merit recommendation. But using the collective knowledge we have of what the county expects, what the Coastal Commission expects, and what we, LOCAC Los Osos expects, the community expects, we should guide any an applicant for what all those entities expect. and say, here's where the coastal commission is going to object to your project, here's what the county is going to object to your project, and here's where like the community is objecting to your project. And we want those addressed before those addressed, and not necessarily make a recommendation or not, and just be an information towards applicants, if that makes sense. I know I rambled a bit.
Yeah, makes sense. Jim, do you have any comments?
I'm sorry, did you say Jim?
Yeah, I did. Do you have, I know we're past your bedtime, but do you have any?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm fine. I just, I agree with the letter that you wrote, and I agree with what you had in mind. And I agree with Tom. We all have our role to play. And I think as long as the applicant who gets all the information he needs about his project, we can recommend that it go forward from here with the full realization on the part of us and the applicant that approval can change at any point along the line. There are others that follow us. We don't have to be, we're not the final say.
Correct.
Go ahead and do our job, review the project, making sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. And then if it's right, then approve it. Know that somebody down the line is going to shoot it down. Or if it's not right, don't approve it. But let's not just automatically disapprove because we think there's not enough water. I'm not sure about you, but I don't know precisely what the water situation is in Los. And I don't think, despite what they say, that very many people know exactly what the water is.
Yeah.
We have a general idea, we have a feeling, you know, we use but the measurements are not quite precise. That really tell us we have a certainty. We all know that we're in a drought, that we don't have any rain, we don't have any water. Whatever water's in that basin is going to be depleted at some point. But I think for now, which is the only thing we can deal with for right now, I think we need to do our job, evaluate projects as we've always evaluated, make a recommendation based on that.
Thank you. Kristen?
I know Larry did want to talk though, so I didn't want to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Larry?
Yeah. From my point of view, from land use, I understood this letter as being a statement because we were at that time getting inundated with new houses and remodels that were, you know, adding bedrooms and bathrooms, which to me meant more water use. I thought the letter was just a letter as a statement to the county to let them know that the people of Los Osos are concerned. You know, not that we were going to not approve any of the projects, but there's a concern, a general consensus of it.
Yeah, we are a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that we're aware of it. Where it morphed into, and I probably made the mistake on land use, was having a yes or no vote on the project. You know, as opposed to maybe there shouldn't have been a vote at all, or change our bylaws so that, because I was one that didn't want to vote on a project. Not for or against it. I didn't want, but my vote was counted as a no. You know, and I didn't feel that was right. So you know, that we give input to the county planning, to county public works, to the supervisors of what us, the people of Los Osos, were elected as representatives. So it is our feeling about a project is, you know, and one house wanted to put in a pool and a jacuzzi. And I basically told them, The house is beautiful, everything else is great, everything, but I can't support it with a
With
pool.
a Olympic sized pool. It was an Olympic
Yeah.
sized pool.
Yeah, come on,
Yeah.
and
I mean, realistic here. Yeah.
and so they took it out,
Mhm.
but then we were in this quandary of, well, but everyone signed this letter saying we can't support it. Chrysler came up with a project that used toilet water for something, I mean,
It was a great project.
this made water,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but so that's kind of predicament it is. I want it to morph backwards now. This letter, as it says, does not say we have to turn down every project.
No.
And the county should know big water use with the pool.
No.
Not going to be approved.
Four people can support it. They think it's fine. They should know that, and that 6 people are opposed to it.
Yeah.
They should know how the town is divided, how we as people are divided,
Mhm.
as opposed to just a blanket, no. I know once a little more control is done with our water, some people are going to think we have sustainable water, and there's still going to be some people that think it's not sustainable enough.
Mhm.
I'm talking 30 years down the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not talking today or tomorrow or what the basin management comes up with, because they're still all talking now. We're talking 20 years before we know what our basin's going to be. Let's get realistic,
Yeah. Yeah.
Each one of these houses that comes to us from county planning is another little straw in the water for right now. Counties, slow down,
Right. Right.
don't give us all these houses to be built, even though there's those that say the water offset. I've got documents here of what developers have handed in for water offsets. And to me, it's ridiculous. Old washing machines used to use 50 gallons a load, and new washing machines use 5 gallons a load. So that means by changing out a washing machine, they're saving 45 gallons. Well, the people that they're changing these washing machines don't have that old of a washing machine, believe me, that uses 50 gallons. They have one that's 10 years old that uses
20.
30 gallons now. The new ones, if you wash 2 shirts at a time and have low water use and everything else, will get down to 5 gallons a wash.
Yeah.
I have one of those machines. I don't use that low water setting. I use the medium water setting. I use about 20 gallons a load. So the difference now between 40 and 20 is only 20 gallons they're saving. It's
Okay, thank you. John, you're next after Larry.
Yeah, and stuff, so we need to change our thinking on this letter. The letter is still good to the county,
Yeah.
on projects. We still need to give the county our input.
Right.
That's what LOCAC does. That's all we're good at. We can't approve a project or disapprove a project. We can just say support it. We don't support it. Here's some bad ideas. Here's some good ideas. Get rid of the Olympic-sized swimming pool. That works,
Yeah.
That's
our job.
That's our job. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, John, you're up next, and then Deborah, then Kristen, then Tom.
Thank you. Yeah, I was, you started out the conversation, Trish, with your point that you didn't want to be told any interpretation that you could not, use your judgment on projects and be told that you could not, that you would have to say no on any water use project. So I agree completely with that. I'm not here to make no judgment at all. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I will agree that if anybody interprets, we just got to say no to any water use at all, does not make sense to me. Otherwise, what are we doing here? So I would like just to point out that that we can, make our judgment based on our own realization of how much water there is from the experts. I'm not so sure the Coastal Commission has even a hydrologist on their staff. I've been told they do not.
They do.
Well, I've been told
I
otherwise.
have his name. I'll get it for you in a second, but yeah.
Yeah, well,
Joseph, I think.
In any case, we have our own hydrologists who may disagree. So we have to use our judgment from the people that we trust as to whether there's water available or not. If we are told that the restaurants that have closed in this town can't reopen because we don't have enough water to even supply the existing population, then you have stifled any innovation in this community. You'll end up with, hey, every one of you that have moved to this town have grown the town. Everybody that's sitting at this table wasn't from here. We all grew the town when we moved here. So don't make growth a whipping boy, because there's, yeah, of course there's out of control growth, but there's growth that is good. We have a new doctor moves to town, can't find a house. Hey, gosh, don't you want a new doctor in town? What can I say? My point about the tiny homes that we could have to house our own homeless people. Well, what if we built a tiny home and then didn't allow them to have water? It just doesn't make any sense. You have to use judgment that the good Lord gave you to decide whether a project is worthy or not. So don't tell me I can't vote. That's all that's
Thank you. Deborah, you're next.
Okay, so a couple quick points. Corey made it very clear that the county looks to the water purveyors to issue the will serve letter, and that's good enough for them when it comes to whether or not a house can be built. A CSD is not issuing will serve letters. Golden State is, et cetera, et cetera. The Coastal Commission, their job is to protect the wetlands and the coast. So they have an environmental concern. The BMC is in charge of the basin. That's their only job. So when a project comes in and it uses rainwater and gray water and it's xeriscape landscape, I want to approve that project because it sets a new standard for homes in Los Osos. That's where the future is for Los Osos. And I want to say I support that project. That's why it's so important for me to be able to vote for those projects that I feel have merit. The sustainable group, each one of us have our own individual voice. The sustainable group's job is to hold the BMC's feet to the fire, and they do a very good job. That's their job. It's not the job of LOCAC to decide if we have water, if we don't have water. I just feel like, again, I'm repeating myself here, that we're out of our lane if we're starting to make decisions based on that. We should base our decisions what John's saying, use our common sense and look at these projects and decide if they have merit.
Thank you. Kristen, you're next.
I promise I'll be fast. The first thing is all these points we were talking about why we want to approve or don't approve. We don't approve, we recommend. And one of the things I've gotten from all these conversations, and then I think is really helpful for those of you guys on council or that are new, is that how the county looks at this is they take a look at our notes and they go, first of all, were they serious? And second of all, are their opinions meritorious? And they don't look at every word. Remember, we had the meeting about the minutes and how much detail. What they want to know is kind of like, what was Los Osos' concerns? And then they decide whether or not those have merit. And so I kind of feel like one of the solutions to all of this is maybe not even voting on projects, but having the discussion of bullet point number 1, concerned about water, bullet point 2, whatever it is, so that because we aren't going to be controlling it, we can have that conversation. Perhaps that might be the solution to all of this. There's no voting. It's just, here's what
That's
land
important.
use-
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, when you guys bring stuff, I'll be like, what did land use committee say? And you guys are like, well, people said stuff. But if you were like, we were actually concerned with the asphalt being mixed into the, and I'm like, okay, great. I had no idea. And I think that that's what the county would find useful. So that's the first point. And the second point I wanted to make is that I'm really thrilled with the new council members. When we did the vote, one of the reasons that I voted for you all is that I was thinking this was a great, you can already see that the people that are established have a really deep brain trust in this. We have the ability to sort of form where there's holes, to form committees to guide this stuff instead of being like, we don't know. We can decide, honestly, we can take all the knowledge that we all have and say, what's an actual sustainable number? Like when I ask that question and everyone goes sustainable, what does sustainable mean? And as I think Larry said, like, even if we do all this stuff, then somebody's going to still say it's not sustainable. So maybe that's a helpful guide because I would love to know. I know I have my beliefs and like I have my views of stuff and I try not to push it. But like, if you were like, what we think sustainability is 55 gallons per, whatever per person, whatever this is, this annual, this is what we can approve. And this is how much we have for capacity here. This is how we make our decisions. That kind of stuff would be great. And we have the ability here to do the research. You guys all have the deep knowledge. Maybe we could do that. So.
Tom?
Okay, I want to respond to Kristen, and I like the idea of not necessarily making a recommendation or no recommendation vote. If that's feasible, that may require like a report to be voted on at LOCAC meetings instead, like written by land use. I was racking my brain about like, we seem to be on the same page about however we vote should be allowed. And I think the narrative that a vote isn't allowed was only pushed by a couple of members from the public. And if that talking point comes up again, it is our responsibility as a council to clarify, like, no, we are allowed to vote. And if you don't like how we vote, you can not vote for us in the future. But as we sit on the council, we do have our right to vote.
Yep.
Next, I think it should be considered to move to reconsider that letter, not necessarily to completely nix it, but to rewrite it, edit it, clarify it for what the current board thinks.
Okay. Move to reconsider.
Yeah, I second that.
Hey, it's being moved right now. Okay.
Okay. Patrick, you're next.
Thank you. First of all, I don't think anybody in the community has ever said that we are not allowed to vote. I think it's how we vote. And of course, in our bylaws and our policies and procedures, it does say that we are required to support conditions that the LOCAC has approved. So that, I think, was the complaint, that some people weren't supporting that as in our bylaws and our policies and procedures. So if that's something that we want to change, we can go ahead and do whatever we want with that. One of the things of my concern is, of course, giving applicants false hope on things. The Coastal Commission is concerned about that also. And in their letter, they said the county should not even be accepting applications for development in Los Osos that cannot show evidence of an adequate water supply. A will serve letter does not provide such evidence, and the county under the LCP is required to make its own findings that an adequate water supply is available to service a proposed development, and it cannot abrogate that responsibility to the CSD. So, in approving or moving things forward on projects that could be detrimental to the people that live here with the water supply that we have, that the Coastal Commission will deny only after this applicant has done everything the county has required them to do, spent a lot of money on offsets, paid all their fees, and then the Coastal Commission goes, no, we're not going to accept it. You do not have an adequate water supply. So we're giving false hope, and that was my only concern about things. And I think the way we're going right now, I think we've got some really good ideas that maybe we don't vote yes or no on these things. We, as Kristen has said, we maybe highlight certain issues. We think this is great, this, we don't have water for this, blah, 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 and then we just send that on to the county.
May I
Yes, Tom.
agree with that? I specifically want it like in any potential change to LOCAC reporting, land use reporting. Like we like this, we don't like this. We think the based on our knowledge that the Coastal Commission will have issue with this, and the county will have issue with that. That should be how we frame things potentially.
I like that.
I think we get in trouble when we start talking about what other agencies may or may not do. I mean, I think, I think we need to be careful there. And I wrote it in the comments, but I think it is our responsibility to vote. I think if we don't vote, we're really minimizing our input.
I agree with Andrea on both of those points. I think we should vote. And I think we shouldn't talk about Coastal Commission wants or does or will not. We can say that all of this has to go to the Coastal Commission and you're going to have to deal with the Coastal Commission. But we shouldn't be saying what the Coastal Commission is going to make a decision on. I think that we have a responsibility. And to answer Patrick's, I want to just make a counterpoint to what Patrick was saying is we give people false hope. I understand that. But here's what actually happened. And this is what was the biggest turning point for me this past year. We would have people who have lived in Los Osos for many years, were getting ready to build their dream home. They've been paying on their water all these years, 20 years maybe. And they're ready to get us to agree to recommend their project. And we say, no, these people don't understand why we, their fellow community, would say no to them. They don't understand why we would not support them. And so what it did is it turned our very own people that we are representing against LOCAC because they could not comprehend why we would say no to their project. Even if it was a good project, we would still say no. And so it created this terrible disconnect between the people we represent and the work that we were doing. We need to get those things back together and we need to vote, on the project. And, if people aren't aware of what's going on with the Coastal Commission not allowing projects, then we need to let them know that.
Okay, and you know what? It is
on us.
No, it's 9:45. So what I want to do with council right now is say, we have talked about making sure that the county knows what the concerns are on the projects, that we do need to vote on the projects. We have bylaws changes we need to do. The council is allowed to vote however the council feels they need to vote on a project. They're not going to be thrown off the council like was suggested at one meeting if they vote in a different way, correct?
Correct.
And that we have a move to reconsider the September 23rd, 2021 letter. So because it is 9:45, the second part of our ad hoc discussion on strategy, I'm going to move to September meeting, even though I think is super important.
Tris, do you need to open this up for public comment?
I need to open it up. That's why I wanted to finish here. Okay.
You're gonna have to do it without me. I have an early morning meeting tomorrow. Sorry.
Me
Night,
too,
Pam.
Jim.
Good discussion.
Thank you, guys.
I understand. I am getting my timer ready. So Lindy, you are on first. And I've asked you to unmute.
Thank you. I've been on land use for so many years, I can't remember, but as I recall, and what I thought we were doing, and it sort of got changed at times, was that we would look at the project. I first want to say the county has really failed to send us full projects for probably the last 2 years, COVID, aftermath. So a lot of times the projects we see are incomplete. It's difficult to even open some of the documents. So I just feel like our decision on that letter was to say, we look at a project, we approve, we make suggestions if we disapprove or things that could make the project better. And then we add that letter saying, when there is a sustainable supply guaranteed for the community, we support the project. I mean, we support the project, but without water sustainability, we cannot support it. So there were kind of like two different decisions we made. One was a solid one at the end that said, without water, we don't think this is a good time to put the project in. The first one was to say the project was great, or should move the pool maybe. So I think the letter could be revised, but I think it's really important that we keep the concern about water sustainability. Some people think on this, current advisory council that a lot of hope should go forward and allow development. I personally think I've been here long enough to know that that is probably not a good idea. And I wish that we would see a county put a moratorium on the situation until we have proven data that shows that we're going to be able to survive as a community currently. So the letter is important. The projects should be looked at because that is important, and they should be complete. The county needs to improve what they send us again. And then I think that we can approve or disapprove, make suggestions, but add the point that only when the water supply is available. I just see it that simply.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Julie Tacker, and I've asked you to unmute.
Thank you. Good evening, Julie Tacker, and interesting discussion. I don't have a whole lot to say about the letter itself. I do find that the ramifications of it and some of what Deborah said about how, it was something that then she'd have to live by, or was the perception. And then Kristen's comment about being First Amendment rights or First Amendment. I felt that way for a while now. I've been on land use for as less than Lindy, but longer ago than I remember also. How about that? Anyway, a couple of years ago, well, it was in January of 21, the LOCAC put out a kind of changed their conditions of service for people who are appointed or to LOCAC and to the LOCAC committees. And if you're going to be changing bylaws so that people can still have a personal opinion and a First Amendment right, I would appreciate that you look at this conditions of service page that we all had to sign in order to be even on the committee, because that language is it twisted me inside and out, and I almost didn't sign it, but I wanted to be on the advisory committee, on the land use committee, because I do think I bring something to the table. And so that's my ask of you, is to look at this as well as that bylaw that needs to be changed. So please consider that. But my message has always been, being an advisory council being on a land use committee, it is our job to shape the project. So putting water aside, even though that's our kind of our main thing that all of us got involved about, you know, a year ago, it was me who said about the Morrow Shores project, you know, don't go through without a 3-to-1 water offset. That is the only tool we have available to us, is water offset through the Title 19 program. So let's strengthen it. Let's make it a higher bar through our recommendations. And so that was one thing that I like to see shaped. But to say no to a project altogether, you're giving up your opportunity and your right to say, no, your house is too tall, or your setbacks are too narrow. We'd ask you to, you know, change the color scheme. We have that opportunity by having these projects come to us. And when we say no to everything,
Okay,
you lost that opportunity. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Julie. Dave and Bev, I'm asking you to unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, it's Dave Bolus. I agree with Julie on the subject of that letter. That's the reason that I refused to join a committee, the conditions of service letter. And that letter, as I understand it, exists for members of LOCAC as well. So I agree with Julie, that letter needs to be addressed. But my question is, in consideration of the water situation, as far as my understanding is concerned, the basin management experts are talking about possibly having sustainable water here in 10 years. In the meantime, does this board believe that we have enough water for current residents if we're going to keep adding more water usage? And I think that's the question that needs to be addressed. And anyone who's ever been to a land use meeting in recent times, and my wife and I have been going to those for about the last 5 years, much of the time is spent in commiserating with each other and with an applicant, explaining to them that no matter how much we like the project, I mean, I'm not on the committee, but what the committee members do, no matter how much they like the project, they have to say that we don't know that there's sustainable water, that this project is going to increase water use, or at least has the potential to do so if the house is sold and a new family moves in that takes advantage of having extra bedrooms and bathrooms. And so the question is, does this council think that there's enough water for those of us who already live here? And if not, then I think that the advisory council has got a problem. So thanks very much.
Thank you. All right. I think we can adjourn. Any other questions or concerns, comments from council?
Trish and Deborah, can I talk to you after everyone leaves? Just regarding my new secretary role.
Wait, don't we have a motion on the table to vote on for the letter?
I think we should table it.
I think table.
Good, because I was going to vote no, because I wanted you to not do that yet. So thank you.
No, but I really want to thank everybody tonight. It was a great conversation, and I think it was a conversation that we really needed to have so that we all understood each other a little bit better.
I also want to thank the members of the public that contributed too. I actually found that very useful. Thank you. Oh. Are you trying to talk? I can't tell. You're waving, John. You're muted. Gotta unmute.
Oh, unmute.
I want to
Unmute.
hear you.
Okay, John, you've been asked to unmute.
Okay. I lost power and I'm back on, so I apologize. I just wanted to let you know.
No worries.
No worries.
Okay.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Right.
Good night.
Right.
I thought they were gonna vote. Me too. Okay. Jeez. 3 fucking hours?
I mean, I don't blame you. It was a long meeting, man. But I think it was an exceptional one. Anyway, we could stop recording now.
Stop recording. Where? Oh, it's under here. Stop recording.
I got it.
Yep.